Hello, sisters. Maple says she kind of really liked this one guy, and I like this is how women have handled dysphoria for thousands of years. Yes, yes. Tall Stones is interesting discussion. Yes. Okay. I when I first picked up this book and I skimmed through it, I thought like most of the essays were going to be like the one I just read or the last one about aging, where it's like it has like specific stuff that it brings up, like specific phenomenon, specific experiences. But through talking about those specific experiences, you're able to draw like broad kind of conclusions and like broader ways of thinking about things or analyzing things specifically to do with lesbians. I thought that's what it was going to be. It's not like this postmodern shit where it's like, well, what if we just like think of things differently and like nothing matters and like ugh. Okay. So there was like one mention of gender identity in like the third page. Hello Karen. Um and I was like as soon as she brought it up I was like fuck. Like this whole thing gonna conclude with like, well, some people are trans, so but it didn't, thank God. Okay. Before I actually get into this, I would like to look at the live chat from the last stream because I feel like what some of you guys were talking about I wanted to reply to, but like now that I'm not looking at the live chat, I can't remember what the fuck it was. Let me look. What's the best way to do this? Bum, bum, brum, bum, 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 brum. Oh. Okay. If you said something in the last stream that you wanted me to talk about, like I know Mad Adam, for example, asked about something and then she was like, I have to go. I don't remember what the frick it was, obviously. Um I forgot that the live chat takes like it doesn't just like it's not automatically there when the video is over, when the stream's done. It takes a while for like YouTube to load the live chat again. So if you brought up something, feel free to bring it up again. Okay. Oh, I do remember Maple saying that her cat was in the same position as Momo and this was a glitch in the Matrix, and I agree, Maple. Mom. When I first got Momo, I kept buying mouses, like little packs of like 3 or 4 like little mouses for cats, and then they would like all go missing in like a day, and so I just kept buying more until I was like, there's definitely like 30 of them in the house, and so I stopped buying them, and now I'll just like find them in random places, like in my laundry and shit. Um, Ali says I wanted to ask all of you about the quote freedoms of a lesbian away from the conventions of marriage and family, etc. End quote. How is gay and lesbian marriage viewed? I don't know. We need to keep in mind that she wrote this obviously in the early 80s, right? And yeah, like fake mice, clown worm. Uh and then she talks about like, growing up in the 50s and 60s, right? Does the math make sense there? Yeah, it does. Okay. Um So I found it like really impactful and super relevant, but there is some stuff that I'm like, it was interesting while reading it because a lot of the times when we're in this, like, in these social spheres where we're all like, oh, I hate like the whole like LGBTQIA plus everything, like all of this woke identity politics ideology stuff. I think we get like super hyper fixated on the negative stuff. And even in reading this essay, there was times where she was like, "Yup, so everyone knows like lesbians, one of you has to like," or she said something along the lines of like, lesbians, because they grew up around heterosexual people, like internalize that, and then when they go and date lesbians, they think like I have to be like the man or the woman, or like who's gonna be like the princess or the prince or whatever. And like, I'm not saying that's not a thing still, because obviously, I mean, look at the trans crap. But I do think that there is like the way she was describing it was like it's inevitable and all the lesbians go through this. And I don't think that's true anymore. Like, I don't know. Anyway. Oh, thanks, Dragon. It's from Tommy Hilfiger. It's actually, I bought it at the same time as I bought the red sweatshirt that I'm always wearing. The red sweatshirt is like the ends are all like frayed. There's like stains on it and shit. And then this one is like, yeah, it is a jumper. um, and then this one is like this is the like sweater that I wear over top of like dress shirts in the winter. And this one is like in good condition. um, and look, I like it had like these weird like flaps that opened on it. I don't know why. So I like sewed them closed with green. Okay, so let's go through the essay. I think that this one I like even better than the ageism essay. Um, Honestly, my biggest criticism of this essay is that I wish it would have been like twice as long and been like way more intimate. Um, you can sew. Oh yeah, I do embroidery. Do I have any embroidery here? Most of what I've been embroidering recently is like vulva art. Well, this is an embroidery. Is this like the only thing I have? Where's all my shit? Okay, well, this is like very extremely basic. I mean, obviously it's like it's a vulva. Okay. Um, I wanted to make like, well, I always want to do like 25 billion things. I wanted to make like a series of vulva arts that were like 3 different designs, and then like just like a series of different colors. And I wanted to do a thing where it was like focused on the clitoris and it was like sparkly or like a bell or like jewelry like beaded or something, you know? Um oh yeah. I keep giving all my vagina art away. I think that's the only one I have left actually. I think I keep giving them to all the women I know. Like literally like, well, all the rad femmes I know. I just like am like, this made me think of you. I gave pearls. Yes, that is a good idea, toss stones. Um I have like a whole like a vest that's kind of like, I started embroidering the stuff for that vest in, wow, 2016. And the whole thing is covered. The back has a piece that's like 10 inches by 10 inches, and that piece took me like 40 hours to do. Um and it has like, I don't know, the whole thing is just covered in patches, and I sewed all of them myself. Some of them I got at MFR, like little tiny ones that I like bartered for. But they're like made by women, so I feel like they were. But that vest actually, like, I'm not gonna get rid of it or anything, but I don't think I'll ever wear it again because the whole thing is like gay and lesbian liberation, and like the first gay pride wasn't a riot. I was in this phase of like it was part of the phase of when I came up with GNC centric, because in the last couple years, when I look at like the trans stuff and like liberal feminism and like society generally, I see just like a ton of misogyny. But at that time, when I looked at society generally and the trans stuff generally, like the only thing I saw was homophobia. And I had this like sense of like we need to get back to like our roots, like when the gay men and the lesbians work together and we support each other, and like we can't do this alone, and like I need to like understand what happened before or whatever. So I was very much in this mode of like gay history, like gay liberation. Um and like now, as we know, the gay men are, like, fucking useless. So I kind of, not kind of, I cringe that I remember wearing that to Mishfest, and some of the women kind of being, like, literally saying to me, like, "Oh, that's, like, a bit weird. It's, like, a kind of male-focused," or I don't remember what they were saying, but they were kind of like, "Why are you wearing that? Like, what do you think the gay history is? Like, why are you wearing that?" And I was just kind of like, "Oh, like, it was," I don't even know what the fuck, but I was just like, "Yeah, it's so great." Um, and I look back now, and I'm like, it went completely over my head. Anyway, okay. Um, but yeah, I think, and that one I got at H&M. I like cut it up and stuff, the vest. I think I need to go to like an actual military surplus place to get my jacket this time and like cut off the arms and whatever and make a vest. Um, I agree. Clarworld says at this point, I think working with gay men was a mistake massively. Very much agree. Um, Julia, you should do vulva themed paintings. There's um there's an Instagram account that's called Detrans Female Art. Um and it's like whittling and sculptures and stuff of vulvas. It's really cool. Um Tall Stones, are you the Georgia O'Keeffe of New Zealand? Tall Stone says I draw flowers, very sensual nature designs. That's very, very cool. Um that's something too with embroidery though, is like I can't actually fucking draw. So I feel like I wanted to do like floral, yonic type embroidery before, but then I'm like, I have to like steal someone's design for that. So I don't know. Like obviously I'm not cool with that. This made me think of you. No, literally, my one friend, the one who gave me this microphone and lent me the the murder mysteries and everything. She I literally, when I gave her the vulva art for her birthday, I literally was like, "This one made me think of you," and she was like, "That's nice," but also I could see she was kind of like, "Okay." Okay. Yes, Toss Stones. Toss Stones, have you emailed me before? I don't think we've communicated. And also just, like, after I move, I'm gonna have more space. All of my stuff is, like, stuffed into this room. Like, you guys can't see, but, like, I literally have furniture that's just, like, stuck together. Like, you can't even use it. It's just, like but, once I move, I will have, like there's, like, a on part of the basement is unfinished, and I'm gonna set that up as, like, my, like, workshop for like, not, like, embroidery, but, like, for, like, more hardcore stuff. Anyway, when I get into that, I might do, like, kind of, like, call outs for, like, artists to send me stuff so I can, like, make it into things. But whenever I do that, I always do, like, a barter type situation. So, like, if Tall Stones, for example, if you sent me some, like, art that I could turn into, like, embroidery, I would send you, like, whatever I made, like, a bunch of it, the first round of it, I would send it to you as, like, you know, or whatever. Anyway, I'm just saying, if you are an artist and you have, like cool graphic designs or something and you want them to be like on buttons or stickers or something, eventually I would like to do like t-shirts and stuff, we'll see. um Send them, like, open contact with me and we'll do something. Okay, anyway. Okay. Oh, okay, that's so cool. Tall Stones, yes, then I will send you back stuff. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the essay. Do I really not have any other embroidery here? I must have something. I've given like all of it away. Yeah, whenever I finish stuff, I give it away, so I don't actually have much stuff. Okay. This is the oldest thing I have. This is like from the first month that I was embroidering stuff. I like totally plagiarized it off some Tumblr. There was like all these little like designs that were like support people or whatever. Um, this one just says veg life. I was like a vegetarian for a couple years, and in that time, I was like also a vegan at some point. This one, which I started and obviously did not finish, Lesbian Avengers. This one, which I also started and like didn't finish. This blue thread, I bought it in Michael's because I was like, look, it's so pretty. I don't know if you can see, but this is like very, very plastic. Like, you don't know, but when you sew and like the thread goes past each other, it just usually passes like smoothly, right? But because it's so like this like sparkly, rough plastic stuff, it like just going past each other, it like turns into a knot. You have like it's like so fucking frustrating. So I like gave up on the last fucking letter of the thing. Okay. Oh, this is my first version of that, I think, which I should finish because like how much work would it take to finish that? Okay. This is a cat, which I was like, this is gonna be my most intricate work ever. You see with all the little designs. I copied this out of like a coloring book, which I obviously haven't finished. And then this, okay. This is the only embroidery I've ever done for a man, actually, and I didn't even give it to him. So this friend of mine was like finishing his master's, and he's like a Baroque nut job. Like he's obsessed with Baroque music. He's like a freaking encyclopedia. Like you hear like two phrases, that's like the development of the second movement of the Mozart or like Bach, whatever. These is nuts. Anyway, so Bach, you can like write his name on the staff, kind of. This was like his kind of like signature, like in a joke kind of way, whatever. So I tried to embroider it, but I used like such fat thread that it looks so stupid. Like it's so stupid looking. Yeah, anyway. Okay. I mean, that's what I have around, and all of it's like not even finished. Okay. To the essay. Hello, Michelle. Okay. All right. So, oh no, before we start, let us read about Lee Zevy and Sahli Cavallaro. I'm glad you're inspired, Tossstones. How do you? Hello. Okay. I don't want to do this stream super long. I would love for the stream to be less than an hour. I'm just like tired. And also I don't want to like go into any details, but I'm like how do I even phrase this without going into details? Well, whatever. I've been on a lot of medication throughout my life, and I'm currently only on one medication, and I'm like going off this medication. So I'm like really like lowering my dose, but it's like very, very fast. Like in a period of 2 weeks, I've lowered my dose by like 300%. I can't do math, but like, so it's been like not spectacular, is what I'm saying. Like, not sleeping very well, like weird pains and aches in my body, like general like fuzziness, like it's been not great. So I don't want to like spend like 6 hours on YouTube and then be like, I'm so tired, but like, okay, so then don't do that. Okay. So I'm pretty sure that so in my last couple of videos, like I will have like the blurb that's like from the book, the blurb about the author, and then underneath I'll sometimes will have like a link to something, like their whatever. Um well, for these women I looked them up and I couldn't find anything relevant. Well, except if I find LinkedIn, I won't link it because I feel like that's like 1 degree away from doxing someone. Like you can obviously Google it and find their own LinkedIn. So if there's no link there, they might have a LinkedIn where you can learn more about what they're doing right now, but I'm not going to share that with you. You can find it yourself. Okay. So, Lee Zevy. Okay, what are all of these freaking acronyms, man? I mean, not acronyms, initialisms. I'm going to Google each one. She has a master's of social work. Okay, that should have been obvious. Oh, sorry, I meant to mute myself. Community service worker. Something else. Okay, all three of them are something to do with social work. Okay. Once I move, I'm gonna go on so many fucking walks. The place I'm moving is so fucking fancy, and the neighborhood is so nice, and there's so many like really like huge old trees, and like there isn't even like sidewalks. It's like, and the roads are kind of small. It doesn't really feel like you're like, it doesn't, I don't know. It seems so nice. I think once I move there, I will like download audiobooks and just like walk for like 2 hours a day in the summer. Okay. I don't know why I brought that up. Maybe you guys saying relax, get some sun and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Lee Zevy received her training from the New York Institute of Gestalt Therapy, formerly clinical director for Identity House and co-director of the Committee to Aid Women in Crisis. She is currently in private practice. I'm pretty sure I googled Identity House because I thought this had something to do with a gender, but I feel like it was something feminist specific and not like gender. I think oh no, is LGBT counseling services in New York City. But I wonder when the trans stuff really took off because she clearly, you know. All right, okay, and then Sahli Cavallaro. Okay, the last name to me is clearly Latino. The first name, it's like Indian and Middle Eastern or something. I don't know. I just thought it's very interesting to me. I have no idea what the fuck Lee Zevy is. I don't know what that is, like what the nationality or ethnicity or whatever. But I just thought that was interesting. So I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her first name right, is what I'm saying. Okay, Ph.D. Earned her bachelor's degree in psychology at Hunter College. The first TERF who ever like hung out with me online was going to Hunter College. Just, like hilarious. I feel like we've come full circle in some way. And her doctorate in developmental psychology at Peabody College at Vanderbilt University. She studied a postdoctoral fellowship in development and psychology at City College of New York. She has published articles on animal behavior, human ethology, and development of language and communication and social behavior. So she like never left New York City. Aren't all of these schools in New York City? Well, is it? Well, maybe Vanderbilt is technically in the suburbs, but it's basically New York City. Okay, no, isn't Vanderbilt in like where's whatever? Who cares? Okay, so that's some stuff about them. Um, so it was kind of one of their. I found it a very like easy reading experience. The first page, whenever I'm reading on YouTube, to me is not very great. It's kind of like the pacing is not good. I feel like the tone and inflection of my reading has gotten better over the last couple weeks for sure. But because it was like a narrative rather than like I don't know, like a disjointed list of what was going on or something, because it was like a narrative, I found it very easy to read. I liked that a lot. This is so I guess this is like they said, this is basically Lee Zevy's um like kind of autobiography in a way. Um I was kind of triggered because it was like reminded me so much of my ex. Eh, okay. What? I thought the page was open. It's where the spine is broken. Oh, I feel for you, Clown World. You guys talking about privacy and stuff? Yo, I'm like so concerned about some of the like, okay, not to be like ageist or whatever, which I have recently been accused of being, which I think is kind of funny, but whatever. Um, because like all of my friends, I have one friend who's like 26, and then all of my friends are like above the age of 40. So like, well, aside from my roommates, but like, anyway, okay. To me, it is like very concerning how many of like the I'm not trying to be like a misogynist and like stereotype or something, but I'm just saying like this is what I've observed, okay? There's all of these like middle-aged GC moms who will like befriend people and online and like very casual, like within like 24 hours and just like send them their phone number or send them like their real email address. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you should be on Twitter with like your Twitter account is associated with a fake email address. You should be using your phone on a VPN. What the fuck are you doing? I am like very fucking concerned. Like, a bunch of you were saying in the last chat that you're kind of done with Joey, whatever. But oh, it's Italian, Michelle says. That makes so much sense, Michelle. Yes, thank you. It seems so obvious now. Okay. And their fucking locations, yes. Their full names, and they say which city they live in. Like, I purposely mention Toronto all the time. It is the biggest city in the country, right? If there is a city that I'm to be associated with, this is the one where you'll not find me, you know? But like, these women will be like, yeah, I live in like, I don't know, somewhere small. And I'm like, dude. But yeah, I was gonna say, like, Cyber's interviews with Joey go into like basic cybersecurity stuff. And I'm like, thank God, because I'm very concerned that these women don't know how to like, you guys are talking about like anonymity, how to like verify people, like how to stay safe. Like, you have like a consciousness of it. Even if you don't know what to do about it, you're like trying, you know? Oh yeah, Dragon, I'm so ageist. I also thought that whole thing, not to get into it, but the whole thing with Joey was kind of funny because I was like, you realize the woman that you slagged off is like your own age, right? So, like, anyway. Okay. Yeah, Cyber. No, I like that interview. Well, I guess it was one interview. Yeah. I like that a lot. I feel so stupid. I didn't realize the native app thing. I'm sure I knew that at some point because at some point I did have all these like alt apps. I don't remember why I switched back, but um okay. Okay, I'm gonna actually ignore the live chat and actually talk. 27 minutes in, let's actually talk about the essay. Okay. Okay, so first of all, the way she uses invisibility in this essay is very interesting. I'm gonna read the first paragraph of the essay just to kind of set the tone a bit, since we've been chatting about random stuff. Okay. This is the story of an odyssey, a story about lesbian invisibility, how lesbians grow into, maintain, and attempt to undo this invisibility so that they may know themselves and love other women, so that the quest for the princess is reconciled and intimacy with a real woman and a charmed relationship is attained. Yeah. Although the details of the story are about Zevy's life, the themes of invisibility and fantasy and the subsequent search for intimacy are common threads that run through the lives of women who we both know and the lesbians with whom we work professionally. Like I was saying, cuz like the fantasy thing it's like vaguely brought up, but is not really like focused on. I'm actually kind of disappointed. Well, not kind of. I'm pretty disappointed that they didn't go into it more cuz like I thought they were going to talk about how a lot of lesbians have like a really rich um like fantasy life because they are like putting up a front around everyone else, and so like because they can't like in their life do the things they want to do, it's like they have like a very very rich fantasy life. I thought they were going to talk about that, but they didn't. And like that's fine obviously, but like I wish there was like a whole book by these two women on this topic instead of like a 10-page essay. Okay. All right, so the first section, childhood, the development of invisibility. She said she's growing up in the 1940s. So again, I think it's like very relevant, but at the same time, some of the specifics that she mentions are obviously not relevant anymore. Right, Maple? I would love that. Honestly, okay, I don't want anybody to get excited or start like losing their shit. Hello, Aqua. Everybody's mentioning my sweater. I'm glad you all like it. Oh, bye, Julia. Um, but people have been telling me for years you need to write a book. And like, I don't know if I can write a book, but I can write essays and help edit essays and compile essays. So I think maybe I would like to do like a self-published anthology. But this is not like happening this summer. I'm thinking in like a long, like a 5-year plan or something. So, because like I've kind of stopped writing in the last like 2 or 3 years, like in any kind of like anything other than like specific to government stuff. So, like opinion pieces and like essays. I haven't written any of that stuff in like 3 years. So I feel like I need to get like some more confidence and like kind of flex those skills. And so maybe I could write for some kind of turfy outlets, and then in like a year or something, like start compiling essays or something. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking about it. But that's the kind of thing that I would be like, are you a lesbian who maybe cyber? Actually, what I've always wanted to do is like actually get my own fucking website set up, which I've been meaning to do since the day I got banned from Twitter, and that's been like 3 years now. I still haven't done it. um anyway, but I would love, like, this is the kind of thing that I'm like, I don't know a lot about this topic. I would love some woman who is interested in this topic, like the rich fantasy lives of lesbians, to write an essay about it, and like I can edit it and let's put it in the book, like that kind of thing. Like this kind of thing where the things that I wanted to get out of this book, basically, that I haven't got out of this book, I think we should write like a modern version, is what I'm saying. But not from like a therapist or a social worker or a psychologist perspective, just from like, I'm a lesbian, this is what I've observed kind of thing. Anyway, okay, I feel like I've like really gone off track here. Okay. So just keep in mind, Zevy says she's growing up in the 1940s. Obviously, it's a very different time than now. Okay. So at the beginning, so at several times, no, Maple, link it to me, or maybe I can find it. What's your name on Getter? I mean, over it. Okay. Um, like, do you mean like a satire version of it, or like an actually like good, like legit version of what it was supposed to be? Anyway, okay. So childhood and development of invisibility. So she grew up in the 1940s. She talks about right at the kind of at the end of the essay, in the last like 2 or 3 pages, she talks about how, from a therapist's perspective, a lot of the like deceptive communication and kind of like coping strategies that that women have, that lesbians evolved to have, from a therapist's perspective, is like very, very dysfunctional, to the point where it might rise to being like diagnosed as like a mental disorder of some kind. She specifically mentions bipolar and narcissistic personality disorder. But here in this section where she talks about her sister being the go-between and her sister covering for her, to me this sounds a lot like autistic girls. I forget what it's called, but there's like this like, I don't even know if there's a word for it. There's like this phenomenon among autistic girls, which again, this is like kind of what was reminding me of my ex, where like they will have like a friend when they're young. And so the autistic girl is not good at social stuff and it's not good at like, like the kind of stuff she's talking about, like your linguistic, paralinguistic, and body language all lining up and being like acceptable and like non-threatening to people. Like autistic girls are not good at that, right? So they will find a friend who is like their social proxy, who they are like very reliant upon. Like not all of them, obviously, but like this is a thing, okay? And the way she describes at the beginning of that, she had to deceive everyone. She had to hide parts of herself. She had to lie. And to do this, a lot of what she did was just not responding in the way society expected of her, not saying the things people expected of her, doing things that made people uncomfortable. And so her sister was like the go-between to kind of help her with that. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That was what I was thinking about there. Okay, I'm gonna read this little section here. Because I already identified with many male characteristics and was often responded to as a boy. I think what she means is like when she was like really little, people were like, "Oh yeah, you must be a boy." Like they just assumed. I didn't have that experience, but I knew kids like that growing up. And I know lesbians now who like that was like what it was like for them when they were a kid. Okay, so I developed what will become lifelong problems. It's almost like if you don't fit into society and society treats you like shit because of that, you might internalize it. Who the fuck could have guessed? I'm not trying to be like sassy to the author. I'm trying to be like, yes, um, this is obvious. If only the TRAs would fucking wake up and open their eyes to this crap. Um, my cat has me pinned so I can't reach my tea. Cat, are you anti-tea? Maybe your cat's a coffee person. Okay, so first, I was confronted with the struggle to force myself into the behavior of a typical girl. Second, I responded to this struggle by communicating as if I were male with the behavior, mannerism, cues, signals, and responses of the boys at the school. For example, if someone said to me, "Oh, what a pretty girl you are," and expected a positive response, I would turn away, look at the floor or ceiling, or appear angry. Like, you know, she describes the two different kind of lesbians, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, but there's a third one." And the two types were like, you associate yourself with like male behaviors, right? So like you kind of have like a natural impulse to behave in gender non-conforming ways that do not fit into like sex signaling and sex patterns within a heterosexual society, right? So both of them feel that way, but one of them like overcompensates with femininity and goes like full tilt, and the other one like becomes an outcast or something. I can't remember. We'll get to it. But while I'm reading this, I I I I'm trying this essay. I'm not trying to be like super subjective. I'm trying to like apply it to myself and like or other women I know. I this is not going to be under an hour. 37 minutes in, we're on the first page. Um when I was very young, like before first grade, I remember only playing with the boys. And when somebody would be like, "Oh yeah, the girls are doing this, like so you should do this," or like, "Oh, you're a girl, so you should do that." I remember like she's saying like people expect a positive response, and I would be like, "You can't tell me what to do," kind of response. But as I got older, I became less like blatant about that kind of response. And I did do that thing of like jumping into hyperfemininity. I don't even know when that was. Like when does adolescence begin? Maybe from like 9 to like 13 or something I tried. Um but anyway, my point was I don't think that this feeling of like I mean just um this very specific example of girls being complimented for being girly and feeling like almost ashamed of that or almost like revolted by that response or something like that and feeling like, oh, I have to be nice, I have to make nice about this. I don't think that's a uniquely lesbian experience because I think a lot of that has to do with sexism. That's all I was trying to say, but I went on like a big long rambling thing about it. um Yeah, Kaz, totally. Kaz says, it makes me think of the quote along the lines of, if you tell a girl she can't like the things she likes because it's for boys, she's obviously going to want to be a boy. Yeah, like even in the first page, okay, I guess we're on the second page. In the first page, she starts off this section. From the beginning, I behaved more like a boy, even using that language. Like, okay, it's not like there's a lot of option of language to use in this situation, but it's this thing of like, well, obviously you want to be a boy. I don't know. Okay. And also, like, this, I was confronted with the struggle to force myself into the behavior of a typical girl. I felt that so acutely when I was growing up. But, sorry, guys. I'm in like a little bit of pain, but whether I'm doing this or something else, I'll be in a little bit of pain, so whatever. Um, but I was like uniquely aware. This is because I have ADHD and I'm fucking obnoxious and I can't keep my mouth shut and I don't know how to like stay on topic and I say things that you're not supposed to say. I'm too honest. Like it was clearly because of ADHD. That's the reason that I was behaving that I was like I'm weird and I need to like fit in. So like shut the fuck up and sit still like all the other kids. Um yo, what's up, clown world? um but again, this is like kind of like the thing I mentioned with like the like autism and like the communication thing. Um I'm not saying that this isn't like I'm not trying to say like this lesbian specific stuff that she's talking about is not relevant. Like it's very on point. I very much enjoy it. But I think that it can also be applied to like non-lesbian women in that um w- the box of what a girl is supposed to be or a woman is supposed to be is so small, like even regardless of sexuality. Um like I'm trying to bring it more into like the present, like right now. The box of what a woman is supposed to be is so small that I feel like a lot of women would reject for a lot of different reasons. I just think that women, I mean, lesbians feel it on the cute level. I keep using the word acute. That's not the word I want to use right now. Feel it on a unique level because they have all the other reasons why they don't fit into the women box plus the like actual sexual orientation. Um okay, let me actually 1 second. I'm also I'm kind of warm now. Yeah, I totally agree, Michelle. Like I'm a lesbian separatist, so I always like think of like the lesbians first. Well, I think of the detrans lesbians first, actually, or like re-identified lesbians, whatever, first. But like, it's hard for me not to apply it to like women generally, my stuff, if it can be. Okay, 1 second. All right. So the next section. Okay. The next section. Childhood. The development of deceptive communication. So, although the development of lesbian invisibility does not follow a universal pattern, it usually begins with deceptive communication patterns in early childhood, when children begin to hide real interests from accepted behavior. That's what I was going to talk about before that I got off point. The way she uses invisibility in this essay is so interesting because she uses it to mean a lot of different things, but not in like a duplicitous way, just in like a more like unifying way, if that makes sense. Because when she uses the word invisibility, she means like in some ways she means like denial of the self. In some ways she means knowing thyself, sorry, knowing thyself, but hiding it, keep intentionally keeping it literally invisible from society. And then she also means even when you're trying to be visible to each other, being not being able to see that, even when you're trying to be visible to like society at large, people not being able to interpret that, it's like the way she describes it to me, like the best analogy I can come up with is it like if there's like one color on the color spectrum that nobody can see, unless you're like a lesbian. And so the lesbians like walk around in this color and people can't see them. I don't know, or something like that. I don't know. It's just really weird. Uh, who's a living legend? Oh yeah, Cyber's epic. Okay. Also, this is like in the last. Remember how Gyn self? Yes, no Gyn self. Okay, we're 45 minutes in. People are not going to watch this unless they really like me. I'm like slightly inebriated, but that's good because now I'm in less pain. Okay, Gyn self. That's amazing. Okay, I literally want to write it down or something and like change it into my catchphrase or something. Okay. Um. So remember in the last essay how the author was like, there is some data that presupposes that most lesbians who come out, it like improves their mental health. Something like very like that, right? And to us, it's like so obvious. Like, if you're like keeping secrets and you're having to like she's talking about here, right? The duplicity, like the deceptive self. If you are living like this like double life where like when you're around some people you're this way, when you're around this people you're this way, and you have to like keep in track all the time, obviously it's exhausting, obviously. And like for her, that author to be like, oh, I think maybe this is the way things are, that was like very interesting. So here we have a similar thing. Here she says, according to my experience at some of the research, lesbians often seem to identify more with masculine and androgynous traits than with feminine traits. This is a reference one. I want to see what the study is, even if I've probably never heard of it. Okay. Sex role identity and male and female homosexuality. Sex Roles, Volume 3, Number 1, 1977. Alfred B. Heilbrunn Jr. and Norman L. Thomas Jr. They're both juniors and they're both men. 1977. Let me see what else she's referencing here. 1979. Sex Role Acquisition. 1983. 77. 82. But even the titles of it, they're so like you listen to this one from 1979. Homosexual Identity Formation, a Theoretical Model. It's literally just like a bunch of academics being like, well, we think this is what's happening, but like we don't have that much data or information about it. Anyway, okay. So, as we know from like much more data than what she had, yes, gender nonconformity or androgyny is like a pretty good indicator that you're more likely to be gay than not when you're an adult. Okay. Oh yeah, here's the two categories. I thought it was later in the essay. Okay. So, for that reason, most seem to fall into two categories during childhood. The first category, those girls who identify with and behave as boys in dress, speech, and manner, the way I did, so tomboys. And those who identify with boys in preferences for sports, games, and other boy favorite activities, but who disguise their male sentiments in feminine dress and decorum and thus elicit feminine treatment from others. I think that was me. I think I was like a tomboy when I was really little, but I think like basically after the first grade, I stopped like really, really being a tomboy. And so even though I like in my school, I don't know why, because Canada is like very, I don't know, it's kind of strange. It doesn't feel like it should be happening. But when I was in elementary school, only the boys played soccer at recess. And, like, it wasn't like the girls were not allowed to play, but it was like if you did, it was kinda, like, weird, because it was like that's what the boys do. So, like, I was dressing, like, pretty feminine and, like, trying to blend with the other girls, but I still wanted to play soccer with the boys at recess. So I'm, like, the second category that they are, like they are socially more feminine in order to try to compensate for their more masculine coded interests, like stereotypically masculine coded interests and behaviors. Pearl Moon says, "This is fascinating for me. A 15-year-old granddaughter is a lesbian. She was always a tomboy." Yeah, goddess bless the tomboy, says Maple. Yes, bless the tomboy. Um, Tomboy supremacy. Oh my god, we should put that on a button. Okay, now I need to write things down with this tiny little purple pencil. Where's my notebook? It's basically a golf pencil. I like I was around children and they just like opened my pencil case and started like snapping my pencils and I was like, "Why?" Okay. Like I'm always on the lookout for ideas for like essays or art or something. I like the um, tomboy supremacy. Imagine that in the Supreme logo. Okay. Hey, Grey Witch. Um. Oh, Pearl. That's very unfortunate. I'm sorry. I hope that. I hope that for your granddaughter, it's a learning experience in like this is why I should be cautious of this, rather than a learning experience in that this is good and I should be like this. Michelle says I want it to be okay again for tomboys to be themselves. Yeah. Okay. Kaz says tomboys literally have me wrapped around their fingers, not gonna lie. No, yeah, for real. Yes. I have a definite type and that's my type. Okay. Well, I don't know. It's not like I'm like gonna reject someone because they're not that, but oh my gosh. Maple, Cyber, whoever the other bisexuals are. If you guys heard this term tomcat, it's apparently like wait, no. Okay, there is a specific word that means the same thing that is specific to black women. I don't think it's tomcat. There's another one. Tomcat is supposed to be like butch, but like if you are bisexual instead of a lesbian, so that you're not like Kaz knows what's up. So that you're not like appropriating lesbian terminology or whatever. So it's like if you are like a masculine woman who is bisexual instead of calling yourself a butch. Yeah, it's kind of a nice term actually, considering all the bullshit the queers come up with. And it's all like ridiculous terminology that is bullshit. That's actually kind of nice. What about the masculine straights? I'm sure there's a word for them. Yeah, isn't there a word for them? Well, you can just say tomboy, but doesn't that also kind of imply children? Tomboy? Or am I wrong? Is stud lesbian exclusive? Yes, I think it's lesbian exclusive, but it's like it has like origins in like among black women. I'm pretty sure like white women are not supposed to use the word stud for themselves. I don't know much about that stuff to be honest with you. Oh, stag. Yes. I've seen that too, Cats. I think that was the other one I was trying to think of. But I don't like stag. It sounds very like okay. Whatever. I keep getting distracted. Let's keep going. All right. Then she says this, for the most part, all these lesbians know their gender identity. This like foreshadowing, man. I found it interesting when she brought this up because, like, I don't know, if you guys know my story, you know that I had like zero sexual feelings in my body until I was like 18. So I don't relate to this at all. I've talked to women who were like, who told me, like, what young age they started masturbating and like whatever. This section where she talks about sex is the one area that seems to be related to an almost universal pattern of deception. So then she talks about how kids start to develop sexuality at an age that, like, socially you're not supposed to be sexual at that age. Like, you're not supposed to have any sexual feelings until you're like a teenager, basically, I think, is what she's getting. She doesn't say it explicitly that way, but I think that's what she's getting at. Stud is black exclusive. Okay, thank you, Julia. That's what I thought, but I like literally read this shit once on Tumblr and I can't remember. Okay. Um and so, regardless of what your orientation is, right? If you are having these sexual feelings or whatever before the inappropriate age, then this is like a unifying thing that this is like the one thing in the essay I'm pretty sure that she points out that is not only for lesbians. This is a thing that lesbians and others experience. I just found that interesting. I'm sure we can't do this just because ideologically it'd be like impossible to find these women to fill out the surveys. But I would love to do a survey of like in 1990, how many like 20-year-old lesbians knew before the age of 10 that they were lesbians. And then to do the exact same survey in like 2020 and see like how many lesbians who are right now 20 years old knew they were lesbians before the age of 10. Cuz like I was saying, we're obviously very critical of like all the woke shit and the LGBTQ and all this blah blah blah. But some good things have happened. There are for sure like I've met them like little like those really like feminine gay boys. It's like very clearly that they're gay. I have met one of those kids like in the last couple months, and it was like it was obvious that everybody like thought, oh yeah, he's probably gay, and everybody was like, that's okay. So like obviously there's been some positive changes, but like but yeah, I just wonder like the net effect of like the last 50 years of gay liberation has had an effect on like society and like has like a kind of diffuse effect on like children or something or not. um oh wow, that's young. And yeah, also like the other reason I ask about this because cyber, you're mentioning quite young ages. Well, what I would consider now to be quite young, 13, 14, 15, 15, 16, when you were like chasing boys and having sex with boys and stuff. Like, we also know now that the age at which teenagers start having sex is much older than it used to be. And I wonder, like, if we could look specifically at lesbians, is that the same? Or is it different? Is it the same now? Or was it then like 30 years ago, you know? Marion says, when I was young, I was the only one, and she means like to realize she was a lesbian when she was young. The first woman of my age I met was around 18 years old. The oldest lesbian told me it was very rare that women realize they were lesbians. Women realized they were lesbians till later in life. And I'm not in a small town. Yes. I I also think it's pretty rare, but I wonder if the incidence of it has changed. Okay. Oh, you were 21 when you came out. Okay, you weren't young. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was 20 when I came out. 13. That's pretty young. If you were a lesbian, reply in the comments with what age you realized you were lesbian. Okay. Then she talks about how she moved from like a Jewish neighborhood to like an Irish Italian neighborhood, and to her, the Italian dudes were like the epitome of manliness, and she wanted to be like them. And I don't know, it was interesting the way she was like, yeah, everybody treated me like I was one of the boys, and everything at home was fine. Also, that's something else too, is like people talk a lot about. I'm not saying this doesn't matter, okay, but I think we need to be able to like consider it from every perspective. Like when I was pretty young, it was like okay for me to be a tomboy. But like the author, right? I'm not like my journey is different than hers, right? I think. No. It was okay for me to be a tomboy at home. At school was a different situation. And so even though at home, my parents like I don't know, they weren't perfect, but they were like kind of okay on that topic. They even though they instilled in me that that was an okay thing, the effect that my peers had on me like way eclipsed whatever my parents were telling me about that. Um so my point is that it makes sense that like regardless of that she had like pretty sure she mentions her dad in here at some point. Regardless of the fact that she grew up with a dad, he was not the epitome of manliness. It was like outside, right? That's where she looked. That's where she saw the thing that she wanted to imitate is outside the home. Um, or that's where the pressure was that made her deceive or pretend was outside the home. And so my point is that as much as like parents being accepting is good and everything, obviously, perhaps that doesn't mean enough. It's kind of what I was getting at. Okay. So the ages here. Cyber says, I think all my lesbian friends had boy relationships about 16 to 19 and then later realized, yeah, me too. A lot of the lesbians I know, they had like one boyfriend in high school. And then they realized like after like a year or two after high school, like, oh, I'm into girls or whatever. Julia said she realized super young. Grey Witch says, I knew I liked girls at 12. At 19, I realized that trans men aren't men and became more of a rad femme. Tossstone says, I was younger but groomed, so I didn't have boundaries, unaware that I could say no. I'm so sorry, Tossstones. Michelle says 11. So most of you guys, it's pretty young. Because I read a study once, I can't remember what year it was from. I'm sure it's outdated now. That the average age that a lesbian comes out is 21. That's the thing too. Like Julia's bringing up that it wasn't sexual when she had crushes at that age when she was quite young. That's yeah. Like I think it's hard for girls to differentiate, or it's very very easy for us to rationalize. Um, you know, you're young, you don't have sexual feelings really, or if you do, they're not directed at a person, right? Oh, I have like a huge affinity for this girl and I really like her and I want to spend all my time with her. Oh, well, we're just friends. Like girls have close intimate relationships. That's normal. So that kind of makes it, I think, hard to distinguish when you're young and also very, very easy to rationalize. Like, I look back at my, like, I don't know, and I'm so, like, tentative about this because I'm like, am I, like, historical revisioning my life? Or is this actually like the accurate, the authentic understanding of it? But like I was so into like Sam from iCarly because she used to like beat up the boys, and that was like me, and I was like I want to be more like her, and she's cool, and she's kind of like me, and anyway, or like Kim from Kim Possible, or like the one with the green outfit. No, the redhead from Totally Spies. I don't know. I definitely had a bunch of crushes when I was a kid, but the way I looked at it was like, wow, these girls are so cool. I wish they were Kim Possible, right? How many lesbians were into Kim Possible and Shigo? Yes, the lesbian. And also like cargo pants. How is that not like the quintessential lesbian cartoon? Cargo pants. Enough said. No? Anyway, but yeah, I because it's normal for girls to have like close interpersonal relationships. I didn't think like, oh, that's like romantic. But oh, Kiara's here. Hello, Kiara. Kiara says was 14 when I thought I was bi, 17 and almost 18 when I realized I was a lesbian. Okay, I think that's Dragon came out at 18. Kiara says I always just told myself as a kid that it was admiration I felt. Yeah, because I don't even know. I don't even think I was like lying to myself. I think I just did literally was like, yep, that's how I interpret this. Like I just didn't know. Sam is the redhead and Totally Spies. Thank you. Should we have like a Kim Possible watch party on Discord or something? Her style of my signature outfit. Yo, when I was young, I was super skinny. I am no longer super skinny, but I always thought like the low slung, like the 2005 look or whatever of like the low slung pants and like the like kind of not like a belly top, but like a shorter top. I thought that looks like so cool. But by the time I was like an adult and old enough to wear that kind of stuff, well, I don't think I would, but I'm not in the shape to wear those clothes. Did you make the Discord? No, I did not. Um, I had a Kim Possible birthday cake. You know, you can get like those cakes where they like print something on the top of it. I had like a Kim Possible birthday cake. It was an ice cream cake. And for some reason, it was huge. Like it sat in the freezer for like a month, but it was awesome. Pixie Hall. Grape says I was out at 21, realized I was a lesbian at 19. Yes, Alex. Well, I don't know. Are you a man or a woman, Alex? I mean, obviously you can lie to us, but can you answer that first before you ask your question? If you are a woman, then for sure. If you are a man, then no. Okay. Met who? Oh, you mean at Disney World where they have like the what do they call those? The characters. Okay, Alex. Oh, Alex. Are you an Alex that I know? If you're that Alex, then yeah. Uh like I forget what they're called. I used to be so obsessed with Disney. You know, there's like a fandom around like the Disney theme parks specifically. I used to be in that fandom for like a few months. Anyway, okay. Oh, yo, Alex. Yeah, yeah. Ask your question, Lou. Okay. Um. Right. Okay. Yes, of course, Maple. All women are welcome here. Yes. Disneyland supremacy over Disney World? Dude, this is fighting words. Are you serious right now? That is nonsense. Disney World has like okay, actually forget now. 7 water parks. There's no way that Disneyland competes with that. I have been to both Disney World and Disneyland. There's no competition. Disney World is fucking epic, bro. I would like to go to like Disneyland. World War III has started. I would love to go to Disneyland Paris, Disneyland Tokyo, because Disneyland Tokyo has the fastest roller coasters in the world. So like, why wouldn't you go there? But like, how do people feel about intersex women in their female spaces? I personally, Alex, feel like you are a woman, so you belong here. Like, end of story. You didn't know there was a Disney World in Tokyo? Yes. Also, the Disney World in Tokyo has all kind of horror themed stuff, which like apparently there all the kids are into like creepy scary shit and they think it's fine. And so like Americans will come to like Disney World Tokyo, and all the rides and amusement like event things, attractions have ratings. And so like all the ones that are rated for kids, apparently half of them are like very scary, but because Japanese kids are not scared of these things, and so the Americans go and they follow like the rating system, like, oh, it's for kids. So they'll bring their small kids, and then the American kids get freaked out. And then like the people who work there, they have learned to like spot non-Japanese people and like warn them about this. It's funny. Um Paris is pretty lame. Oh. But they also have like the Alexandre Dumas section, right? They have like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and all that. I just think that's like a really cool thing. Um, Disney World and Land. Okay, Disneyland is in California. I've been there. Where the fuck is it? Some plucking nowhere, California. I don't care. It's not nowhere. It's like an hour outside LA or something. Um, Anaheim. Thank you. And Disney World is in. Okay, literally Disney World, basically they built the city around Disney World. Like, I don't know, now I'm talking about the history of Disney, whatever. So, Walt Disney was really, really into model trains, but not like the little tiny ones, like the ones you put in your backyard that are like actually like kind of like 18-inch type trains. And he and this other, who the fuck, some famous dude, people know, I don't know, were like friends, and they were like really into their train sets. And his original like concept of Disney World was like a kind of like America, like tour thing. So there was like a Texas section and like a Alaska section, and it was like history. It was like a tour like through parts of America and through history of America kind of thing. Um and there obviously was a train and like pony rides and all this kind of shit. He literally bought the land where Disney World is because it was like the middle of nowhere and very cheap, and he could get a lot of land. There was not like there wasn't like infrastructure. Like they had to like build infrastructure to bring the people to the Disney World, not Disneyland, Disney World in Florida. Um I don't know, it's very interesting. What if the intersex woman sounds male? Well, I don't know. Like I say when I talk about detrans women, it's like everything falls in a bell curve. So it's like, who's that singer? Um, I can't remember her name. But there's a couple of different like lesbian singers who have like very like husky voices that people will listen to them and think like, oh, that's a man singing. But it's not. It's a woman with like lesbian voice, as I call it. So like sounds male to me, that's like there's a bell curve of what does that mean? And like a bunch of the women I know, is it Nina Simone? She's one of them probably. I'm very bad with names. I don't know who any of these women are. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't. And like also, I know a bunch of women who've been on T. So like to me, like you know, at least to me, I'm like, what does that mean? It's fine. I'm good. Um, I still haven't watched that Toss Stones, but it's so cool that you like that they're in New Zealand and you met them. That's very cool. Um, why are we lolling at Aqua? Disney gives Aqua hives a little. Oh yes, I've heard very peculiar things about him. And it's funny, Toss since my father worked with Walt Disney learning set construction, did not like Walt too he was too dodgy. Yeah. So it's funny when you like well, most of what I know about Disney I've learned from like video essays and like just like people who make YouTube videos about it. And like remember how I said I don't watch oh bye Pearl. Goodbye. Remember how I said I don't watch like really like feminist or gendery things on YouTube that I this is like the kind of stuff. I was also like really, really into roller coasters. I'm still very into roller coasters, but there's like a roller coaster fandom. Like what brands, what names, like were you on it before or after this remodel, and like how many times have you been on this one, and like, whatever. Um, what was my point? Oh yeah. So in this like Disney history stuff, they They always are like, yeah, all the animators, like in like the original like Disney when they first were getting off the ground, all the animators are like crazy, having like sex parties with drugs and alcohol and getting kicked out of hotels. But did like Walt, no, he was like an upstanding man who didn't want anything to do with that. And I'm like, was he though? Was he? Because he was there, wasn't he? He kept booking the hotels for this stuff. So, you know. Maple, are you on Coaster YouTube? I can't even remember the name of my favorite coaster YouTubers. It's also so depressing that like all the coaster YouTubers are men. It's fucking like atheist YouTube. It's so depressing. I'm not really into atheist YouTube. I went through like a period when I was like, I don't know, 20 or something, 19 or something. But the only like woman I know who really like goes on coasters and like talks about it is my god, what's her name? She does like these crazy videos that are like a 4-hour deep dive into like the entire Vampire Diaries. Or like Jenny something. She did like a review of like all 14 Land Before Times movies. You guys know who I'm talking about. Jenny Nicholson. But she's also stopped posting. Oh, Alex, I'm so sorry. Alex says I don't want people to mix me up with a transgender female. I get that all the time. But also, like you're detrans. So I think what you like that experience obviously for you is because you're intersex, but also you have that in common with detrans women. So it's like the fact that you're a female who can be mistaken for a male is like proof that you're a female, if you get what I mean. Like, I don't want to like tell you how to feel or whatever, or what to think, but like that's how I see it at least. Marion, you inspect roller coasters at your job? Where do you work? Are you in America? Do you work at a Six Flags or somewhere else? Blood Moon, you're watching Vampire Diaries? I am like a currently I haven't watched any TV in like months aside from like the Great Canadian Baking Show. I am a recovering TV addict. I have watched all of Vampire Diaries 3 times. I definitely watched True Blood more than that. I was very into vampires for many years. So, tell me your thoughts about Vampire Diaries. Okay, whatever. No, we're talking about the essay. All right, okay. The next section. Remember how I was like, this video is going to be less than an hour, and it's like an hour and 20 minutes in, and I'm on like page 4 of the essay. Okay. Um. Okay. Adolescence, the creation of lesbian emblems and deceptive roles. It's so cringy sometimes, but I enjoy it. Yes, like you know the original Desperate Housewives, like like the scripted TV show. It's same like with that with me. It's almost like soap opera level of insane. And so at times it's like cringy and at times it's like thrilling. It's like on a very like you like sitting on this edge where half the time you're repulsed and half the time you're like very intrigued. um I always wanted to go to Six Flags, Mexico City, just because that's like the amusement park with like the most deaths. I wouldn't go on any of the rides, but I just feel like it's like part of like amusement park like history to go there. Yes, the crazy roller coasters that are like killing people. Okay, anyway. Okay. I'm going to temporarily cover the live chat. I love you guys, but I literally cannot focus at all. Okay, now I can still see the bottom of the live chat, and that's like the most distracting part. Can I open this more? No, I cannot. Oh, I will put this on the top and put something else on the bottom. Okay. It's the A&W napkin. No, this is a Wendy's napkin. I think. There's nothing on it actually. Um Do I have some kind of a book here? Okay. Here. Coloring book. All right. Okay. Adolescence, the creation of lesbian emblems and deceptive roles. I've never heard the term lesbian emblem before. I like it. When I entered adolescence, I encountered even greater risk of exposure because adolescence is a time when knowing and following the rules of sexual interplay between boys and girls becomes increasingly important. So it's like in the last section, she talked about how, like, the one thing lesbians have in common with non lesbians um, is that when they're too young for it to be like socially acceptable for them to be having sexual feelings or being engaging in sexual behaviors, they hide it, regardless of what the orientation is. So this now, you're now leaving the period of time when it's taboo to be sexual. And so now it's expected that you're sexual in the way that is appropriate, right? Which obviously means like she talks a lot about like so one of the oh my god, this. She talks listen to this, listen to this. I don't know who this person is. Maybe some of the older people know. Okay. So she talks about I'm just gonna mention this and I'll go through the three ways that she like made herself invisible. I could never figure out if I wanted to be Lenny Nullet because he was a boy or because I craved his leather jacket. This is why I was so obsessed with this book before I read it. Because there is so many experiences that are lesbian experiences like that. Th- like having like a crush on a boy, but then realizing, oh, I don't want to be with him. I want to be him. Right? This is a very, very common thing among lesbians. And now it's been twisted. Like I truly believe that what transgenderism is, like you can look in the DSM for like when homosexuality was like an illness and then it got taken out and look at gender identity when it became an illness. And it's like they literally took the same thing in like most of the ways. In broadly, they took the same thing and they just like relabeled it. Gender identity ideology or gender identity disorder and like the concept of gender dysphoria is the pathologization of common lesbian experiences, such as I was kind of infatuated this with this guy. I couldn't tell if it was because I wanted to be him or because I had a crush on him. Like, oh yeah, this is proof you want because you want to be him. Why do you want to be him? Because he gets to be with girls and you want to be with girls. Because people look at him and they think he's cool and they look at you and they think you're like not like they think you're frumpy or whatever it is. The reason you want to be like him, it has to do with your self-esteem. It doesn't have to do with like an actual like authentic like I can be myself when I'm like that guy, right? Um just they have pathologized the lesbian experience. And she is like, yeah, this was my lesbian experience. And every single page, I'm like, yes, that is a lesbian experience, not proof that someone is trans. Um, all right. So she talks about how she achieved her invisibility in adolescence. First, I wore feminine camouflage, makeup, seamed stockings, starched crinolines, and endless curlers. I literally don't know what a crinoline is, although I definitely have read this word before in historical fiction novels. And also seamed stockings. Like, wow. I I don't remember the last time it was that like ended in the 50s, doesn't it? Seamed stockings. Wow. Anyway. Okay. So I took on feminine habits, I spoke in deliberate tones and flirted with boys. This created problems for my Italian male persona, who, although now underground, always felt as though he were in drag. Okay, the first time I read this sentence, I think I made a face, and I was like, "Mm." But now that I read the sentence again, I actually have a different perspective on it. Um, and those of you who followed me for a while, you'll remember I've talked about this a couple times. Like when I went through like my hyper feminine phase from like 9 to 13 or whatever it was, I literally like I felt like I was dressing up a doll. I was so like depersonalized when I was trying to make myself look pretty because it was like It had nothing to do with me. The entire reason I was doing it was like to see myself from the lens of outside. So I was like outside myself while I was trying to accomplish that, right? So now in that with that in your ear, let's listen to this sentence again. This created problems for my Italian male persona, who, although now underground, always felt as though he were in drag. Like the first time I read that, I was like, is this some kind of stupid fucking um Leslie what's her face? Or Leslie Feinberg? Or is this like just the language she's using to describe that? And I think because she's calling it back to her, like, I think her Italian male persona at this point is like the label she's using for like my authentic feelings inside. Um, unless I'm misunderstanding that. But yeah. Okay, the second solution was an even better blind for my sexual identity. Oh, this! This is the thing that I've read in the essay that I most related to it, that I most was like, this is 100% applicable to me, 1000%, like, no customizations necessary, qualifiers necessary. My father was a therapist. Okay, not that. My dad was not a therapist. So I just slipped into his role. I took on the jargon and the technique of objective distancing. This stance of the friend therapist reserved a unique role for me among my friends and was the perfect cover for my insecurities and inept behavior. I could remain perfectly invisible while analyzing my friends. This solution worked almost too well because although girls found my relating their boy problems to parental relationships somehow useful or at least tolerable, boys hated it entirely. Okay, that part I don't know about, but I definitely did that for like years. I have so many memories of being in high school and like my all my friends were female in high school. And and sorry. And like therapizing them about like what kind of relationships do you want, like how do you experience sex, like I did that all the time. And it was like instead of me going out and like doing my own relationship stuff, it was like all I did was like help them with their relationship stuff. And so I took on the role of like the helper rather than like the doer. Like it be like for most of high school, nobody even asked me like why aren't you dating or like do you want to date someone? Like literally nobody asked me that ever. They were just kind of like, "Oh yeah, you don't do that. That's not like you don't do those things. That's not what you do." Um and you can see my like the distancing and looking from the outside thing. I think it served me well, honestly, like in the long run as like a human being on the planet. Cuz I think that was the kind of thing that led me to like keep asking questions. And like I told you guys before, I think that what happened with me with queer theory was like was asking 1 billion questions, and then when I ran out of the okay questions, started asking the not okay questions, that's when I started to like wake up. And I think this kind of like outside perspective therapist type thing. But anyway, I think that along with like the fantasy life thing that I mentioned earlier are both like very common for lesbians. Like ugh, how many lesbians are like the friend that all of the girls call when their boyfriend kicks them out? The friend that all of the girls call when they need a car ride to get an abortion. Like, okay, maybe that's a bit extreme, but like, you know, there like so many lesbians I know, they have like lifelong friendships with a bunch of girls who are like they're like the helper person. Um, I don't know if you get what I mean. Anyway, okay. Definitely dissembling a bit there. This is not much to do with what I was talking about before. Okay. Okay. Also, this phrase to me was like, I don't know, it just made me feel like so much empathy for the author. Because imagine saying this as like a lesbian. Listen, although my therapist role kept potential girl lovers turned towards their princes, it won no princes or princesses for me. This is the part that's like heartbreaking. And even a prince would have been better than the growing isolation I felt. That it, like she just completely alone. This like the invisibility, right? That everything was like hidden from herself, from others, as much as she can hide. She talks about her first relationship when she was 17. Okay. I often say that I've like never met any lesbians when I was a teenager, but I did actually meet one. But I kind of don't count her because like I literally hung out with her for like an hour one time and then I never saw her again. I can't even remember her name. I never went back to that place where I met her ever again, maybe because she was there. But when I was 15, I went to some like LGBT youth thing, but instead of it being in Toronto, it was in the suburbs, which I never fucking did. But a friend of mine lived there and she was like, well, she was a TIFF, so whatever. It was like, come to this one that's close to my house. I was like, okay. So um we went and they were making some kind of like film or ad or something. I don't know. We put on costumes and like wrote a script and did stuff in front of a camera. I don't fucking know what we were doing. But um at one point I was 15 and this girl was, yeah, because this is before I had come out as trans at school. And this girl was 14, I think. And she like came up to me and was like, "Do you want to go out for like a Coke?" Or like it was something like super like juvenile. Like, "Do you want to like something? Let's go out somewhere," kind of thing. And my knee jerk reaction was like, "Nope." Well, what I said to her was like, "It's nice of you to ask, but like I'm only into like men or something." Now I look back and I'm like, she could see what everybody else could fucking see. You're clearly a fucking lesbian. Um, but after that, I honestly, it's such a distant memory to me that I don't really feel capable of like analyzing it, which is disappointing. But I feel like that moment was pivotal for me. Before that moment, I never considered that I might be a lesbian. And her asking me the question opened the option that maybe I could because like she's asking me if I'm into girls. I never asked myself that before. Um Not like it had never occurred to me that I could be, but it was like whenever it occurred to me that I could be, I was like, but I know that I'm not, right? So why think about it? Um, like I was like, it's a foregone conclusion that you're gonna be with a guy. Like, why think about it? I don't know if that makes sense. But her asking me that question made myself ask that question, and I could not ask that question. And I was like, nope. And I just like I literally left like within a few minutes of it happening. Like it was such a jarring experience that I was like, I can't be here. Um, and then after that, the only other like lesbians I met were like adult Tims. Oh, maybe one teenage Tim, but Tims. Um, but yeah, in my like 4 or 5 years of hanging out in all the queer youth shit in Toronto, she is the only like actual lesbian I think I ever met. Anyway. So here she talks about how she had her first relationship when she was 17, and the reality that she was a lesbian was like so complete after that, right? That she immediately went back to dating men because she was trying to like fix this thing that she could no longer ignore, right? Then she talks about this kind of like she has this a little bit rambling paragraph where she is like, was I supposed to be the prince? Was I supposed to be the princess? Was I supposed to save someone? Were they supposed to save me? Like I didn't really know. And then like in the last page of the essay, she talks about how she thinks that like a healthy relationship, healthy lesbian relationship is based on like an equal footing, right? So She doesn't say it, but I guess she's kind of grew out of that, like, mentality of, like, even if not, like, sexually or not, like, socially, but, like, psychologically, one of you is supposed to be, like, the provider and, like, the wife or whatever. I think she was in a way, I think that what she's saying is, like, when you're not sure and when you're, like, trying to make yourself invisible and you're trying to, like, stuff yourself into, like, hiding in the straight world, you internalize this stuff, but, like, it's not conducive to, like, a healthy relationship, I think, at least. Listen to this too, like, again, um, this to me, it's so poignant when you apply it to now, okay? At this point, I knew I was different. I was no longer merely uneasy about being a man in a girl's suit or a girl in a man's suit. Now I knew what the source of my difference was. I was a lesbian, sexually attracted to women. So, all of the discomfort she's been explaining up until now, and all of the ways she has reacted to the behavior up until society up until now, has been like in a fundamental denial of her lesbianism. And for her, accepting that she was a lesbian meant being okay with that she was different. I think this is a huge thing that we're missing in these days. It's like, oh, you're different. Um, like it's like they put the cart before the horse. Like, oh, you're different. So this proves like all kinds of weird, creepy shit about you. Like your list of special things. Instead of like, I don't know, just I'm not really explaining anything that I'm trying to say, but I know that when I realized I was a lesbian, everything like fell into place, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like the reason I'm different is because of this, and like that's not a bad thing. Instead of like you're different and you're creepy, and everything to do with your difference and creepiness is a bad thing. Um, okay. So she says after she realized she was a lesbian, her deceptive communication changed. So she says, first, I wanted the occasional woman to be a possible sexual liaison to know I was interested. But second, my communications would have to be ambiguous enough to provide an out in case the woman was not interested. And third, I had to play the heterosexual game with no intention of winning. So she has to like pretend she's into men, but then when the men actually like reciprocate, she has to be like, oh yeah, there's like good reasons why I'm not into you and it doesn't prove I'm not straight. Um, but this whole like this reminds me of there's like this scene in the L Word where they're like eating at a country club. Oh yeah, for the tennis girl. They're eating at a country club and one of them like think is into one of the chefs and they're like, is she a lesbian? And I'm like, first of all, she's like a woman who's like a professional chef. Chances are like higher than normal that she's a lesbian. But um they're like trying to figure out like all of the ways they're trying to list all the ways like you can tell if someone's a lesbian without them like telling you I'm a lesbian. And this is like her trying to like signal it without making it obvious to non-lesbians. Like it has a very like love that dare not speak its name vibe. And it's like she's talking about before, the isolation. Um, this to me kind of reminds me actually a little bit of like transition because with transition, you're being told like, once you transition, then you will like pass and you'll have peace of mind. You don't need to think about it anymore. But like, I mean, I didn't medically transition, but it actually became more stressful the longer I was trans, that I was like putting more pressure on myself and like this thing of I want to appear one way, but people perceive me this way, but I need to send like messages that they perceive me this way, but they actually do perceive me this way. And like, what can I do to control? It's like this external, like, power over you that you are constantly trying to please the external power over you. Um, and because of that, you're like separating like the self from like the visible self, if that makes sense. So like to the from your presentation, and like that is so stressful. It is so energy consuming. It is not healthy. Um, and so again, it's like now that I look at it through that lens, it's almost like I had a lesbian experience before realizing I was a lesbian, like yet again. Okay. Um, although not really. No, because I wasn't doing the same thing. But I'm just saying, like in terms of the psychological impact, I think it's similar. Okay. And then she talks about how she doesn't know how to flirt with women because, like, for years her flirting was like this fake flirting with men as like a pretense. And so then when she means it for real, she actually has no idea what the fuck to do. I have never. Okay, I remember on it being a teenager. Also, very groomery shit. I don't know. I didn't realize that before. Being a teenager on like trans queer Twitter, all of my like friends who were adults, like I literally had like maybe 3 teenage friends on Twitter when I was a teenager on Twitter. They were all adults. Um, they would always joke that I was flirting with other adults in, like, public Twitter. They were always like it would happen so often. Like, I literally remember, like, taking screen caps and, like, texting my friends and being like, "Is this me flirting? Like, I don't understand. Like, what does flirting mean? Is that what I'm doing?" So I think I'm just, like, friendly. But, yeah, I also cannot flirt because when would I have done that ever in my life? Like, when was my opportunity for me to, like, go out and try doing that? And also I have no self-confidence. I don't do that shit. Like, anyway. Okay. Adulthood, visibility, and communication. So she talks about how you can only have like a healthy relationship if you're both like, you know, accepting and acknowledging that you're lesbians, basically. Like not only to yourself. I mean, not only to each other, but also to yourself, like on a very fundamental, authentic degree. Um, and she talks about how this is difficult because lesbians like they learn so well to hide their lesbianism. It's kind of like how behavior and language guides thought, right? So if your behavior and language are always aimed is always aimed at hiding that you're a lesbian, your thought will also be along that line. And so even if you're like in an intimate situation with another lesbian, it's like that those thinking processes um like they're not just gonna disappear and like that will have like a profound effect on both of you. So then she has a section here where she talks about how lesbians try so hard to overcome being perceived as lesbians that it's basically what I was just saying a second ago, that it has like, but she is saying it now more explicitly, it has like a profound psychological impact on them to the point where if they sat down, they go and seek out therapy because they're distressed. And when they sit down with the therapist is like, yeah, I think you have like a personality disorder or something because you were like very, very dysfunctional and like damaged. Um, and then she talks here. This is the thing that when I read this, I was like, I think society has moved forward a little bit, not like a lot, but a little bit. I mean, at least in metropolitan Canada, I guess, from my perception. So, how when she came out in this straight therapy group, it was like the men didn't know how to act around her, the women didn't know how to act around her because like they didn't view her as like signaling her sexuality like in the same way as them, and like apparently that's so integral to their like um paralinguistic and nonverbal communication that like they can't handle it. Oh, something else that she mentioned earlier that I think I skipped over was how like she would flirt with men. So like verbally, she was like, I'm into you. But she was like physically, I would send very clear signals that I was not into them. And I think lesbians do like the opposite sometimes, where like they will send, well, gay men also do this. They will send like with body language like very very clear signals like I'm into you, but like verbally they won't say anything. Um so I don't know, just kind of interesting like the flip. I don't know. Okay. Relationships, fantasy and intimacy. Oh no, didn't we just read this part? Oh, this is different. So she talks here about all of the stuff that she learned about herself and about relationships through her experiences of being in multiple relationships. Um, Listen to how she describes intimacy and keeping in mind that like she thinks denial of like the true lesbian self prevents like a healthy relationship. Intimacy involves the ability to disclose the essential most inward parts of oneself to another person and have them equally disclose themselves. So, this makes sense then like if you are comfortable with your homosexuality but your partner is not, then when you open up about it, they can't reciprocate. Or when they open up about it, it's negative. So when you open up, you're like you're making yourself vulnerable to like negative things. So like obviously it's unhealthy then, yeah. Here, this phrase is so interesting. It is possible that lesbians use a series of adult relationships to dissolve, as I did, the protective layers of unintentional deception, each relationship being used to erode one or more of the layers behind which the person has been hidden. That's so interesting. So I guess it's like if you expose different authentic parts of yourself to each partner, at the end you will have had like a more holistic view of like the intimate parts of yourself. um Here she talks that there's no model for what a lesbian relationship is supposed to look like now there's stereotypes about what a lesbian relationship is, which they're not good, but at least they exist. She talks about the work you have to put into relationships. Oh, this I found this so interesting. Lesbians like myself who grew up always wanting women who really wanted men, like really think about what that means. You are a woman who has a crush on women, and this woman is only into men. So if you want to be with her, then you're like, yeah, I want to be a man, or I have to be, right? This is like even like Anne Lister, and, Ethel Smythe. I'm trying to think of like lesbians like before the year 1900 wrote like, I think God cursed me and put me in a woman's body because the things I want to do are the things that men get to do, like in bed with women. Anyway, so this here, okay. Lesbians like myself, who grew up always wanting women who really wanted men, develop a mistrust for any woman who wanted them. You see what I'm saying? Because if the woman wants you back, like what is that? You've psychologically twisted yourself into this like heterosexual view of lesbianism or heteronormative view of lesbianism or whatever. And so when there's like actual lesbianism presented to you, it's like this bizarre, creepy thing. I'm going to reread the sentence again, okay? Lesbians like myself, who grew up always wanting women who really wanted men, develop a mistrust for any woman who wanted them. For this reason, they frequently fail to make even an initial attempt to form intimate relationships. Very, very interesting. Okay. Then this too, like the way she uses visible in this essay is so interesting. This is not to deny that even I, in my 40s and still becoming visible, do not have my occasional flings of fantasy. Okay, but that's not what I meant. That she, so this like becoming visible, I think to her, like one of the ways in which she means this, which I don't know if I mentioned before, is like becoming like authentic with yourself. So she's like, even I in my 40s, I'm still like becoming authentic with myself, like um, unlearning my social camouflage, even now. Every once in a while, when life becomes dull, the Italian man comes out of the closet, puts on his leather jacket, and runs off into the sunset with his princess. So she is saying, every once in a while, the um the male, the way that the self perception as a male, or like male like, in terms of her relationship with her sexuality, once in a while that comes back. But now I think she's saying like she has like an integrated identity, like, or like an integrated sense of self, that she no longer has like, yeah, there's like the male persona, which is like the one that at least acknowledges that they're attracted to women, and then there is like the woman who pretends that she's straight, and like both of those are false, right? I don't know if I think I said the opposite before, but I think this, and now this, based on what she's saying here, this is what I think. um yeah, that both of those are false, and so she has like an integrated identity now, but every once in a while she'll fall back into the more lesbian of the two split identities she had when she was younger. Okay, we're on the last page. Clinical implications. The recent changes in the diagnosis of homosexuality as a pathological condition have brought about a lessening in the stigmatization of lesbians as sick. I wonder if there'll be an essay about that, about like lesbians' trauma with therapists. Because like I've read some history books where like literally there's like the all American girl who's like good at school and is like, socially like acceptable and everything. And then like somebody discovers she had like has had sex with a woman or is dating a woman or something, like in the 50s or the 60s. Even into the 70s, the National Institute of Health in the US sponsored one of these like asylums or whatever. And then they would like, whether either they had money and they would pay like private institutions to do this, or there was like government institutions that would do this for gay men in several places, where like, so you are like a normal person living your life, and then your family or community finds out what you're doing, and they like, because society is so like against homosexuality in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they would like lock you up and try to convert you. um and like a lot of the people wanted that because they were like, look at the way society is treating me, like it would be better if I wasn't like this, right? So I wonder, she didn't touch on it in here, but I wonder if, like, can you imagine if you had a girlfriend who was forced into like a psych ward to be tortured and experimented on by homophobic people, and then later you are having a mental health issue and you need to go see the like professional of some kind. I don't know. Obviously, you would be okay. So she's kind of talking about how it's more about like integrating them as a person rather than like anything else. The path to invisibility and deception produces the following traits: incongruent body language, cues and signals, trouble establishing intimacy, and tremendous anxiety, woodenness, rigidity, or anger about revealing secrets about lesbian identity. Based on these traits, lesbians are often misdiagnosed as narcissistic or borderline personalities. So then she says she thinks it's important for therapists to not just understand like the adult lesbian and what is her problems, but to understand like the child, the lesbian childhood and how that affects the lesbian's like sense of self. Again, this is an essay about identity, right? Because identity is sense of self, but it doesn't use the fucking word identity almost anywhere. So it's like actually talking about it instead of like throwing a bunch of crazy words all over the place that mean nothing. Okay, I'm gonna read the last sentence of the essay. Some lesbians feel that they can only accomplish this goal when the therapist shares their experience and reveals her lesbian identity. Oh, yeah, that lesbians are more comfortable with like lesbian therapists. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I thought that was the last sentence. This is the last sentence. It is essential that the therapist understand the difficult process of developing a lesbian identity and cope with the differences and possible anxiety of a non-heterosexual transference. Yeah. Okay. So we did the essay. I think, yeah, I liked this essay a lot. So now we are on to section two, relationships. So yeah, I'm hoping we can get through the relationship section of the essay of this book in the next 2 weeks. Um, okay, gonna look at the live chat. I am going to eat some food and read. No, I'm gonna go to the washroom. I'm gonna eat some food. And I'm gonna read the live chat because I obviously have been ignoring you for like 20 minutes, but I do want to like reply to you. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the washroom and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm gonna scroll up and start reading. I'm also about to eat while I do that because I just realized it's like, oh my god, is it 5 p.m.? Okay, well, I've been up since 4:30 and I've only had one thing to eat today, so I'm starving. Okay, I'm gonna eat while I read. Maple is like, at this point, any woman with short hair is getting called trans. You know, I buzzed my head like 2 weeks ago, literally, and then I went to my morning job. People I have been working with for months started asking me what my pronouns are again, despite already doing this. So, literally, the difference between a mullet and a buzz is the difference of a gender identity to these people, is the difference of you are not like a woman now. Like, I think in a lot of ways, my mullet was like the most feminine external characteristic I had, like aside from having a female body, obviously. And when I got rid of it, they were like, "You must be signaling you don't want to be like seen as a female." Like, like literally, yes. Oh, you guys were agreeing when I was like, the lesbian is like the helper. She's not like the one who like dates or like is seen as like a romantic interest. She's like the helper. Yeah, you guys are agreeing. Okay, yeah, true. Um, like Dragon VF is hate watching my live stream so she can rant. Well, how do you know this? Is she ranting about it on Getter? I mean, if that's what you want to do with your life, I guess. Dragon says that I am an awesome, true feminist dyke. Dragon, I am so touched. Thank you for saying that. um, yeah, Julia, I very agree with this. Julia says you can be honest, assert your boundaries, and express different opinions, and still maintain the mutual respect. But I know what you mean about the pressure. Oh, okay, I don't know what you mean. But yeah, I agree with that. Like, I'm very happy for women to disagree in my thing, but when they start like slinging insults at each other and like slurs and shit, like I pay like quite a lot of attention to the live chat. I think compared to most live streamers. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm pretty obsessed with the live chat, but um, I didn't see this. Someone who is quite a prolific commenter emailed me saying that VF used racial slurs against her, and because of that, she was not coming on my live streams anymore. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back with my decision on the VF thing. Maple says I have no tolerance for people who habitually disrespect women. Say whatever you want to men, but treat women with some degree of dignity, or you're just a run of the mill misogynist. Oh, the Aiden thing. Okay, this might be controversial, but I feel like Aiden is basically the same thing as Karen in terms of misogyny. You've just made Karens out of the women that you find acceptable targets. I mean, at least that's how I see it. Especially because you see when they bring it up, right? They wait to bring it up until it's like a situation where it's like quite malicious, or not malicious, like quite like malevolent. I don't know what word I'm trying to look for, but like it's not like they bring it up about every other tiff. They bring it up about the tiffs who they think are like deserving of scorn and like, right? Anyway, Julia's like, how do lesbians flirt? I don't know. I can't answer. I have the same question. I'm also asking for a friend. And then Maple's like, it involves a U-Haul from what I've heard. Oh, Tostones left. Well, I'm sure that was a long time ago, but I'm glad she hung out. I love Tostones. Hmm. Hair's looking good at this length, B. Oh, thank you. Um, it's reached the like level, the length where it's like it's nice to pet it. How long is everyone's hair? Dragon, the fuck? Kind of therapist is that? No, hey ghost. Maple, your cat and my cat are the same cat. They're just like in two different places at the same time. Different skin, same cat shape. um. Oh, glad. I mean, good. I'm glad, Dragon, that you did something about it. Kara says I worked with a woman for a full week and then she asked about my pronouns. Yes. Aqua says my pronoun answer. I am not a gender ideologist. I do not have pronouns. I am a materialist. I'm a material realist. Well, originally at my work, I was refusing to answer. Like, I didn't want to say anything like I'm against pronouns or I don't prescribe to pronouns because everybody around me is woke. So I was like, I need to work here. Like, you know, can make it like hostile. Like, I need to work here. So I was like, I'm going to say nothing because I don't want to, at the very least, I cannot like participate in it, right? But the result of this was everybody calling me they, them, which is like so lesbophobic. And then, so eventually I did tell, like, I told one dude my pronouns were she, her, and then he must have spread it to everyone. I don't know. I feel like gross, but by even engaging to that extent. But like, I'd rather engage to some extent and be fucking called not experiencing lesbophobia on a daily basis. Um, yeah. But what anywhere else, like, I am like very like turfy outside of work. When I'm at work, I like nothing because I need like money like to live. Um, but I don't feel so bad about it because, like I said, I'm like very very vocal whenever I'm not at work. So, um, Dragon, she's still talking about it? I've kind of stopped using Getter. Like, I try to go on, but it's kind of boring. It's like it's died a lot. There's way less people on it. Yeah, what would be the Tim equivalent of Aiden? Oh, corner set. Aiden is exactly like the Karen. That's why there's no Tim equivalent. Mhm. I'm not going to tell you guys. I have a couple different jobs. I'm not going to tell you what any of them are because the internet. But it's not like I'm in an office environment where I can just like have some interaction with my colleagues and then go sit down and not have to talk to them. Like I'm constantly in contact with all of them, like in a kind of social way. So it's like they talk about like issues in their relationships and stuff like while we're at work. Like it's like very like personal the environment. So like the trucker convoy thing that happened in Canada. Literally, a bunch of them were like, I can't even talk to the customers because like this guy has like a Canadian flag on. I saw when he drove into the parking lot, he had like Canadian flag on his truck. So like he must support the convoy. I was like, you also know the Olympics are happening right now, right? So maybe that could be it. But also because someone doesn't politically agree with you, you can't even talk to them. So based on that kind of insane reaction, I'm like, I can't tell them I don't believe in pronouns. Like, I think the environment would become so hostile I would end up quitting. There was big drama on Getter. Oh, simple. Simp is like a reverse Karen. Um, oh yeah, actually. Yeah, Grey Witch, exactly. Grey Witch says I do have some anger for women that participate in this misogyny, but yeah, they are also victims. It's difficult. It is difficult. I agree, and I do have anger for them. On some level, yeah, it is. It's yeah. Clown World. If you go vocally turfy at work, let us know how that goes. Oh my god. Kiara says I had a coworker who talked shit about someone who came in because she had a Venus symbol on her tote bag. Disgusting. Okay. Yeah. Oh, hey Ariel. I'm like about to finish the stream. Okay, I'll keep it going for a second. Let me just think a little bit. Oh yeah, but the VF thing. Yeah. If you are like insulting people in my live chat to the point, well, not people, women, to the point where women are emailing me and being like, I will no longer participate in your live chat specifically because this woman is so volatile. I don't feel comfortable voicing my opinions there. Because she doesn't just disagree, she disagrees and insults and like berates women. So like, and she was doing that to me too. And I was like, it was making me very anxious. Like, honestly. Um, like I can handle being disagreed with, but being like insulted and like degraded and like condescended to all at the same time, I was like we can disagree, but like be respectful about it, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Aqua says, once a coworker called me it behind my back for weeks. She was mad I used quote unquote the office computer. I survived. Can you believe it, lols? People said if there are tiffs or other people who are being quote unquote actively misogynistic, not quote unquote, shit, I'm reading a lot. Like emphasis, actively misogynistic. I think it's fine to retaliate, but otherwise I save my anger for men. I don't know though, even that, because what I try and think about is like what is the long term effect this has on like other women. So if there's a woman who's being like really misogynistic and I'm like do something to like I don't know, retaliate or take vengeance or something, what's her response gonna be? Because I hate myself, it's okay for other women to hate me? Like, what net effect does that have on the women around her and the way she treats them? I try to, like, really take as much of a step back as possible and not take it personally and, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm soft, though. Kaz says she was intentionally misrepresenting your points too. Oh, yeah, it was very bad faith, like, at the time when that other woman emailed me, um, I had already blocked her on YouTube and I went on Getter and she was like going on rants on Getter being like, I was being so reasonable. I just disagreed with her and she can't handle that. And like I don't know why she's pretending that and I was like she was literally saying like a bunch of stuff that she had never said before and like here's a bunch of context for why I'm being reasonable and I'm like, but you didn't say any of that stuff. You just said this one thing over and over again. So um okay, well it was like I don't know. She used like a racial slur against like Latinos and she is Latino. But the woman that she used it against was like, "That's fucked up, and I'm not okay with that." And I even though, like, we're both Latino, like, "This is not okay. Don't do that." And I was like, "Oh." Um, yeah. I feel like they might know each other because they're both YouTubers, YouTube commenters. Like, VF is Cuban, I don't know what the other woman is, but I don't think she's not Cuban. Maybe it's some kind of, like, intra-Latino thing. I don't fucking know, but I was just like, I don't need to know all the details. If I know that this is what she's doing, which obviously is like bad faith, you don't just start running around saying that kind of stuff to random women for no reason. Like you're doing it obviously to upset someone. That's not like why. That's not a like healthy environment for women to be like sharing their kind of stuff, like their feelings and things. Okay. Um oh, Marion, I've heard this. I know a woman who's like I know a woman who's oh my god, what the fuck am I saying? She's like a city inspector. I don't know the other woman who's like a carpenter, a woman who's a welder. All the women I know who are in like male trades, they like don't really have to deal with the woke shit much because they're like off by their self doing their own shit, and the men around them are not all wokes. um, yes, Kiara. Kiara says I think I will always have a soft spot for TIFFs. They're in the sunken place, but for women slash lesbians, completely agree. Oh, Michelle, I'm glad that you think I handled it well because I'm not really sure, you know? Like, I feel like I'm just kind of rambling along a lot of time. um, oh, that's interesting, Clown World. I never heard that before. Anyway, I don't want to go into like a list of why we all have issues with VF. I don't want to be like starting drama. I'm just saying, like, so that to me, that and when Benjamin, there's like two things that like were like a clear demarcation of like, this is things are different now. When VF did that, I was like, okay, so this is my standard. Because before, when I first started doing the live streams, like, you know, in January, I was like, okay, so this is like a forum that I'm hosting. And so I want disagreement to me is very important. Like no groupthink, no like echo chambers. Like that's very important to me. Um, and also it's just boring. Like I want to hear a diversity of opinions, even if I disagree with them. So when the stuff happened with VF, I was like, okay, so this is like a clear demarcation of what is my, you know, I mention this all the time. What is my goal? My goal is to have a space where women can talk. If one woman is fucking it up for everyone else, like, is that one woman worth it for the rest of the women who can no longer participate? No. So I think that's where I'm at now. If you are going to be like disrespectful and intentionally antagonistic to the point where it's affecting the like ability of other women to speak in the chat, then you will get removed. And then the Benjamin Boyce thing, obviously, like, oh, maybe not obviously. I don't know who is here, or which 20 of you are here. If you know this already, well, probably I know a bunch of you guys in the chat know this, but um, uh, when Benjamin Boyce came on, I was very taken off guard And he sent me a super chat. Like, the first thing I noticed was a super chat, and I read it out before I didn't really, like, click, like, "Oh, this is Benjamin Boyce." Um, um, and also because, like, when Benjamin Boyce showed up in the live stream, I was there with Rachel, and I don't know Rachel's situation with Benjamin Boyce, and I didn't I know she's been on it at least once. Um, and I was aware, whatever once I realized, like, "Oh, this is him," after I was like, "Thanks for the super chat," and I was like, "Wait." Then I was like, "Okay, whatever I do now will probably reflect on her as well, so I need to be careful with what I do." So I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna end the stream," because also it was, like, 2 hours and 41 minutes in. I was like, "That's a long enough live stream, like, shit." So but then the next day, I spoke with you guys about it. It was, like, the first thing we talked about the next day in the next live stream, and I think it was Frau Fantastic who was like, "Benji, you say this is, like, supposed to be, like, a female-centered space." She's like, "Would you let a man into a physical room with us if we were having these conversations?" And I was like, "Oh, no, obviously not." So, I blocked him and a bunch of male YouTubers who I think might well, not like a bunch, a handful of male YouTubers who I think might show up in my live chat. And then I, deputized a bunch of you guys with the explicit goal to remove the men from the live chat if they show up. Um Yeah. So, my channel I haven't, like, posted anywhere, like, the rules of the live chat is, like, no males. Um, I actually did try that for a while, but I couldn't figure out how like, there's, like, little message that pops up about, like, "You're on a live chat, like, please behave and follow community guidelines." I thought there was a way to change that message. I couldn't find the way to do that, so I gave up, but yeah, female focused and, like, hospitable to all of the women who want to disagree with each other in civilized ways. That's, like, the goal of the live chat now, so I don't know, it's a learning experience. Um, Michelle says, "Benji, you were explaining your experience, something that cannot be logicked away. You heard her out, realized that there was no way to reach a consensus and agree to disagree. You couldn't do more." Well, that's I try, like, that's what I was trying I'm glad it came across that way, 'cause I don't wanna be like, "'Cause you don't think like me, I can't talk to you," or "You're not allowed around me," or, like, I don't know, or, like, "I can have 0 respect for you because you would disagree with me." I mean, there's some things like, I'm like a lesbian separatist. There's some things that if you disagree with me, I, like, fundamentally can't respect you. But, like, um oh, yeah, that's true, Julia. The highlighted pinned message, but usually the pinned message in my live chats is, like, a link to the next stream or a link to the article I'm talking about or whatever, yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, guys. So I've been streaming for 3 hours today. Remember how I was like, "This is gonna be a short streaming day because like, I'm in pain and not doing great." No, we are not talking about Joey. Nothing, like, happened. I'm just like, no, don't be sorry, it's okay. I'm, like, changing some medications that I'm on. Well, I'm stopping medications that I'm on, so it's kind of like a painful transition period. Um, oh my god, it's VF Topdike? Holy shit. Oh my god. We know each other from Tumblr from back in the day. Who? I did not fucking know that. Oh my god, I need to tell my friends her because she is, like, known. She is, like, yeah, she is, like, Top Dyke is, like, a very she's almost as bad as, like, Dirt from Dirt, if any of you guys know. You didn't know that? No, I didn't know that, well, I don't keep track of what she's doing online, so Maple remembers Dirt. Dirt was, like, the most volatile, combative, like, caustic lesbian on all of Tumblr. Um, yeah. I believe you guys. You don't need to I believe you. Um Oh my gosh. Maple. What's your Tumblr? Are you live journal era de sister? Is that you? Well, fuck, I shouldn't have said it now because if it is, well, don't answer me then. Do we know each other from before us from Tumblr days? No, but is that your name? There's somebody on Tumblr called Live Journal Era de Sister. Oh, you never had Tumblr. Well, I mean, good for you, honestly, Maple. No, yeah, definitely not Kiara. As you all know, you can just email me if you're like, "Yo, we used to be friends for a year, 7 years ago." I'll be like, "Oh yeah, send me who you are." um, I don't know. Honestly, I don't want to go into the Joey stuff really, but I want to talk about something peripheral to that, which is I'm gonna delete that post today because honestly, I feel like I should have worded some stuff better, given myself a day to think it over before I posted it, and mostly I feel ashamed that it was passive aggressive that I didn't name her. But a lot of the women in the comments are commenting stuff along the lines of she's been an activist for 30 years and who are you to criticize her? Or you're ageist because you don't like what she's doing because she's older than you, or stuff like this. And I'm like, I hope I don't come off like that. I don't think that way. Aqua says, I like how you're willing to reprocess yourself, Benji. Is that the word for it? I don't know. I'm constantly, I almost feel like I'm dishonest sometimes because I'm constantly reevaluating things. And so if you ask me something, I maybe don't think the same thing. And it's but I'm not lying. I'm just constantly reevaluating. Anyway, like, yeah, Julia, Tumblr is worth it if you curate your timeline to keep track of the nut jobs. But I don't think, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, when all these women in the comments were saying stuff along the lines of you know, it's disrespectful of you to criticize an older activist or an older woman or whatever. I don't know, it feels kind of convoluted, but I feel like this is disrespectful to me, and I I'm disappointed because I'm like, what am I doing that's sending the message that this is how I think, that this is how people interpret what I'm doing? And so to me, it's okay, maybe I'm saying something or doing something that's sending that message. And so if I am, I want to find out what that is and not do that. But yes, Kiara, that's what I suspect is happening. Kiara says sounds like gaslighting. Yeah. Um, and it's sad because the women who are doing that, oh hello. Um, I I respect them. So I just I don't know. I'm just generally disappointed. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know. Aqua said, I call it checking the $2 bills. Once I had a gig where I went to the loo and there was $200 worth of $2. And I had to ask myself, did I steal that money? And really think about it. Okay. Um, Did we actually have $2 bills in Canada, or the whole point is that there's never been a $2 bill, so the whole thing was pointless? Is that the point? I don't think we had, right? Anyway, I don't know. Like, I tried to see, this is not even about Joey specifically, but the concept of I want to protest pediatric transition, so I will put images of that on billboards to protest. That concept. Um, we did have $2 bills. Okay. Yeah. The like I put quotes around feminist when I wrote it because I was like, you can't even respect a woman who you say you're advocating for, the women who've been through this, but the woman who's been through this who tells you her opinion deserves like outright like scorn and hostility. And like, so you don't even respect the women that you say you claim to be advocating for. Like, at least in the moment, that's what I was feeling. So that's why I put the quotes around feminists. But I do think that was like a bit overboard. But also, I'm aware now that if I start editing it, people like the replies won't make any sense because they'll be replying to something that's not there anymore. So I don't want to be like whitewashing it or whatever. Um, oh, you have a $2 bill, Canadian $2 bill, Dragon. Um, that also to me was like, initially I was confused, but then I interpreted it as gaslighting. But then I was like, would all of these women really be gaslighting me? Like, um, because when I saw when I wrote the post, everybody was replying and being like, "But we all know PM Berkeley is like a troll." Um, I think I actually might have PM Berkeley blocked from my YouTube. She commented on that community post, but I don't. She hasn't been in the live chat in weeks. I'm pretty sure I blocked her because I don't even know if she's a troll, but I feel like she was really fucking with the ability of everybody else to like really share their opinions or whatever. I don't know, whatever. I don't even know. Maybe she just stopped coming here. I don't fucking know. But um, so the whole post, it's like PM Berkeley, as far as I saw, never offered to share top surgery photos. So it to me, because I mentioned that like 3 different fucking times in the post, clearly I was not talking about PM Berkeley. Like this is what I was saying. Like I'm kind of ashamed of the way I wrote it because I should have used all the specific names involved, so it wasn't like this passive aggressive thing. But um, then like many of the women in the comments were like, "But PM Berkeley is a troll," and I was like, "But she didn't offer to give top surgery photos to Joey, so clearly she's not the one I'm talking about." And at first I was like, "Oh, they were just confused." Um, but then I'm like, "But like all of them, like a bunch of different women are saying that," and I'm like, "But how can they all be confused in the same way?" Like it doesn't. I don't know. I just the whole thing is very disturbing. And strange to me. Um, but it's like I don't even want anything from Joey. I was just seeing a woman who was like in good faith offering her opinion and in good faith offering to like solve this problem that she sees that Joey has, that she's using these photos without consent, and Joey like treated her like shit. It's like I don't really want anything specific from Joey. I was just like, you can't say that these are the women you care the most about and you want to protect everyone from having this fate, but the women who've had that fate, the one who you say you care the most about, you treat her like shit. Like just like the level of disrespect and arrogance. Like, to me, I don't want to be like labeling her and saying bad things about her, but to me, like, that act shows so much disrespect that I was like, I know the dragon wasn't going to like, she was gonna, like she said what she had to say. Joe reacted the way she did, so that was it. Dragon was done with that. But like, to me, it's not okay, because also to me, like, this is like YouTube, right? We're like in a little bubble here on YouTube. This is not like the internet. Oh, as I was saying before. Okay, so the whole concept of exactly, Kiara. I very, very much agree. Kiara says, I think some people in the movement clearly objectify detrans / desisted people to use as ammunition in their stance / argument. Very, very, very much agree. Like, I understand why they view detransitioners in like a utilitarian way like that. But you can't say that you truly respect the detransitioners and you truly care about the detransitioners, unlike those assholes over there. And then when they're useful to you, you'll use them. And when they ask for something or when they voice their opinion, you tell them to fuck off and leave you alone. That is like that. You don't respect them then. You're just using them. And that's not about Joey. That's like generally about like GCs and radfems. Um, um, so like Rachel she has taken much more concrete steps than I have, because I haven't had surgery, right? But like Rachel is medically transitioned and detransitioned and whatever. So, it's her right to actually take more action on this. So she contacts the organizations or the advocacy groups or whatever who use the photos and says, like, do you understand what you're doing? This is why I'm not okay with it as a detransitioner, and like, the people you can get those photos from without doing that or whatever. Uh what was my point? Oh yeah. So to me, the major argument for why it's okay to use these photos without consent, there's like two major arguments. The first major argument is that they're all over the internet already, so who cares? And I'm like, that argument has no principle to it. Because based on that argument, well, porn is all over the internet. So if I want to protest Pornhub, I should just print out the porn and go stand there. Like, no, that doesn't make any fucking sense at all. So the principle of that argument makes no sense to me. If you think that it's like, the other major argument is like, well, like, this is what the doctors show them, like, this is what like they're seeing already or whatever. And I'm like, so then if you're trying to show it in the context of like, this is like medical um false advertising or whatever, propaganda or something, then to me, the only situation into which you could put that onto a billboard and point that out specifically is to print out like, X clinic, doctor this, here's the top surgery photos of my patients, like print out the whole web page including the photos to be like, look, this is the doctor who practices in this building and this is his website and what he's showing, right? And even that, you still have the unconsenting photos on there, so there's obviously that still that gray area. But if your argument is that it's because it's medical propaganda or um, false advertising, then without context it doesn't mean anything. So obviously that's not really what you're trying to say, is it? um and then some people have brought up like, well, like nobody, like so many people have said like, maybe I wouldn't have like transitioned if I'd seen the photos. Okay, I don't want to say someone um I agree, Mana says, I have clearly missed a chapter, but if I may, surely we should treat women who no longer claim a gender identity the same way we treat trans widows, on their terms, if that makes sense. Yes, exactly. Like, that's just like basic respect, right? Like, you've been through this unique thing, so you have a perspective I don't have. So even if I disagree with you on that perspective, right? Like, to me, if the conversation had gone like this, Dragon is like, don't use these unconsenting pictures of minors and their surgery scars. Find adults who will send you the pictures. If Joey's response had been, you know what, I'm not going to do that, but thank you for offering, I would have said, you know what, I disagree with her, but at the end of the day, she is her own person. She's going to behave the way she wants to behave, right? Like, what am I supposed to do about that? She's going to do what she wants to do. Many people, like, that's how the world works. Um, but yeah, what was the last thing? Oh yeah, people are like, well, if people don't know what the pictures are you fucking insane? What the fuck? That is the most disingenuous argument I have ever heard in my entire life. Do you know when people talk about ROGD? What do they talk about? Oh yeah, I watched all the transition timelines on YouTube. People talk. There is entire websites dedicated to like, oh yeah, I got my top surgery. Here's a picture. There's entire like subreddits dedicated to like, okay, here's like a timeline of like my top surgery, um like everyone has seen this stuff. Everyone has seen this stuff. Like at Pride, you go to Pride, like Rachel and I were talking about, you go to Pride, all of the tips who've had surgery intentionally take off their shirts to show off their scars. So this whole concept that like, well, maybe they've never seen it before. I literally don't believe that. That is a lie. Maybe for one individual that might be true. But in general terms of like the trans community, showing someone a picture of a post-op radical double mastectomy is not going to be like an, oh my god, I didn't realize that. Like that's what they all fucking talk about all day. All of them are like, yeah, I had this technique done by this surgeon. I had this technique done by this surgeon. This was my healing process with this surgeon. This was my follow-up care with this surgeon. Like they're so, a lot of them are so into it. Like the concept that like, well, without showing them this picture on the street, nobody would have seen it. I'm like, what? You said the reason you're doing this is because the pictures are all over the internet. So the pictures are all over the internet. So you saw them, but somehow this person who is like, according to you, brainwashed on the internet somehow missed all of those. Like it's just lies. Um, no, I agree, Rachel. I do think it's like much farther than a difference in opinion. Rachel says photos of surgery aren't quite the same as a difference of opinion. It's very personal. Yes, I do think that. But I do think there would have been like a clear difference if been saying like, well, you think that and I think that, so we're gonna like agree to disagree and like I'm gonna go after you because I can't handle being disagreed with. That's kind of what I was trying to say. Not that it makes it like more okay, but like, it's just like one less step of disrespect, I guess. Um, Aqua, I would like to take your perspective on it, but considering she works with Aaron Brewer and detransitioners have been emailing Aaron Brewer about this for 3 years, I find that extremely hard to believe. Like I would like to think what you're saying, Aqua, but I don't think that's possible. Um, like several of the detrans advocacy or websites or whatever, a bunch of them got together and started emailing her about that like 3 years ago, and nobody gives a shit about detransitioners. So the people just were like, whatever, we're gonna do what we want to do, and like that's life. People are gonna do that, but like considering that people have been talking about this, like I know Erin Brewer like went after people in Facebook comments over this shit, like in like Facebook groups. Like she just would like, oh, this person made like a random post about something. They sent an email to this group complaining about my use of photos, so I'm gonna go after them in the comments of this random Facebook post. Like it was such a public thing. I would be very, very shocked if Joey has never heard that this is an issue people have before. Um anyway. Yeah. Like somebody I know offered also like, it was like so last minute. They offered like 3 days before D-Trans Awareness Day, like, oh, do you want to do a protest? And I was like, who are we protesting? Why are we protesting them? Like, who is going to be at the protest? What is the purpose of the protest? And she was like, oh, like, I don't know, but like, because D-Trans Awareness Day. And I was like, but what does it do to help D-Trans people? Whatever this protest is about to be. And that's like the kind of question I ask myself a lot of the time. It's like, okay, obviously most their goal is not really to help D-Trans people, is to prevent people from transitioning. But also just like the general concept of protesting with shocking photos to me is stupid, because if you're doing this, you fundamentally misunderstood what the